Footage from a low-cost FPV drone coldly locks onto a steel behemoth crashed in the muddy fields of Ukraine. Its formal designation is the M1991 240mm multiple rocket launcher, a weapon North Korea has long boasted could turn Seoul into a sea of fire within 45 seconds, a so-called doomsday weapon. Yet at this moment, it looks more like a blinded prehistoric dinosaur, its massive frame circling an open plain with nowhere to hide. A suicide drone costing only a few hundred US slips precisely into the launcher's weakest point, the engine compartment at the rear. A fireball erupts instantly, triggering a violent secondary explosion of onboard ammunition. Within seconds, a weapon system worth several million US is torn apart, but amid the burning wreckage, military observers worldwide notice a far more unsettling detail, the familiar heavy truck chassis bearing distinctive Steyr-derived technical features. This was not a North Korean design. It carried a clear Chinese imprint. The M199 destruction raises a stark question. If even an ally's so-called trump card proves this vulnerable, then on a real battlefield, are the PLAs related, shared lineage systems true strategic anchors, or merely larger, more expensive live targets? Chapter 1. From nation defending weapon to disposable lighter. In calculations at Russia's general staff, 120 M199 launchers were once treated as a secret reserve capable of altering the course of the war. They were hidden deep in forests behind the Donbass front lines, each covered with thick thermal camouflage nets and rarely deployed. After all, this was Kim Jong-un's much-touted Seoul destroyer, and Russian forces hoped to roll these systems out at the most critical moment, unleashing overwhelming firepower against Ukrainian defensive lines. The reality, however, proved grimly ironic. The launcher's two brief appearances did not deliver decisive victories. Instead, they became two highly visible and deeply embarrassing public failures. First appearance, a live target that could not move. In June 2025, near the Donetsk front, days of heavy rain turned the region's black soil into a vast swamp. Russian forces finally committed an M1991, attempting a surprise strike on Ukrainian troop concentrations. The outcome was sealed the moment it left paved ground. Drone footage reveals the massive vehicle emerging from cover and immediately bogging down into open terrain. It moved at a crawl. The Chinese-made civilian engine roared under strain, belching black smoke, while the wheels spun uselessly in thick mud, unable to generate traction. Ukrainian FPV drones soon arrived. For the operators, this was less a combat mission than target practice. The launcher was effectively stationary, a multi-on steel giant immobilized like a wounded draft animal, struggling helplessly in a mire. The drone struck the rear of the vehicle, where the unprotected engine and fuel tanks were located. An explosion followed. The lightly built civilian chassis tore apart instantly, disabling the platform. Flames engulfed the vehicle, setting off a chain reaction of ammunition detonations. The launcher was first destroyed before its tubes could be raised or its stabilizing legs deployed. Russia's first attempt ended as a heap of burning scrap. Second appearance, paper-thin and highly flammable. On January 20, 2026, Russian forces made another attempt near Luhansk. This time, they added an anti-drone cage armor to the roof and sides, hoping to improve survivability. What they overlooked was the system's fundamental flaw, its structural core, the chassis itself. The second loss was even more decisive. Ukrainian drone operators ignored the cages and once again targeted the large Chinese-manufactured chassis. The strike point was carefully chosen, the hydraulic system linking the cab to the launch assembly. The weakness was immediately apparent. The chassis lacked military-grade armor and even basic blast segregation design. The drone's warhead pierced the frame with ease, igniting pressurized hydraulic fluid. Flames spread uncontrollably. The multi-million-dollar launcher burned like a cheap, flammable plastic toy, rapidly consumed in the snow. The irony was stark. While Ukrainian HIMARS units can fire a salvo and relocate kilometers away within minutes, this M1991 was likely still struggling just to stabilize its massive frame. In an era dominated by drones and rapid detection to destruction cycles, its slowness and fragility left it unfit even for the role of expendable artillery. Conclusion, a harsh reality. These 120 launchers, once treated as prized assets, are not decisive weapons at all. They are, in effect, disposable lighters. The core issue is not firepower, but survivability and mobility. The systems cannot reliably reach firing positions, nor can they remain operational once deployed. As long as footage of these failures continues circulating online, the remaining 118 units are unlikely to see action. Russian forces may hesitate even to start their engines. The practice of mounting massive launch systems on lightly built civilian truck platforms, a legacy of Soviet-style brute force design, offers no future on a modern digitalized battlefield. Under persistent drone surveillance and precision strikes, it leads leads only to one outcome. Chapter 2. The M1991's defeat and the PLA's weakness. The two North Korean M1991 rocket launchers that turned into fireballs in Ukraine were not so much destroyed by precise drone strikes, but rather by the mismatch of the vehicle's poorly suited chassis, the Chinese Hongyan CQ-25290. In military circles, the vehicle is often labeled with the sophisticated tag Steyr-91 series from Austria. However, stripping away the layers reveals a relic from the 1970s European-bred transport technology. Bringing it to a battlefield is akin to having an office worker in cheap shoes run a muddy marathon. From North Korea's painful lessons to the PLA's equipment vulnerabilities, let's examine what lies beneath the fatal flaws hidden in these massive war machines. The Hongyan CQ-25290 was originally designed with a simple goal, to transport several tons of cargo over smooth highways. When this civilian standard meets the brutal realities of modern warfare, 3 fatal physical defects turn it into a nightmare for its crew. The spring suspension dilemma. Fatal bumps. This vehicle uses the most basic steel plate spring suspension, designed solely for carrying overloaded cargo. Modern military vehicles emphasize independent suspension and long straight shock absorption, but the M1991 on Ukraine's catered roads rattled violently under the hard suspension, making ominous creaking sounds. This not only caused crew members to lose their meals, but the intense vibration also easily damaged the precision fire control computers and hydraulic systems. When the Russian military's vehicles were attacked, they couldn't even take evasive actions, likely because the vehicle's components were already broken before they even fired a shot. The mud nightmare, lacking the key air. Modern military vehicles like the US HEMTT are equipped with central tire inflation system to reduce tire pressure and improve traction on mud. The CQ-25290, however, uses narrow high-pressure road tires. When faced with Ukraine's mud season, these tires cut into the wet ground like sharp blades, sinking deeper the more they struggled. The several-ton vehicle quickly becomes an immovable steel tomb, leaving only the option to abandon it and flee. High center of gravity, a tipping point. Civilian trucks typically have high centers of gravity, and North Korea's M1991 took it a step further by stacking a heavy multi-ton rocket launcher on top. This made the vehicle top-heavy and dangerously unstable. In the God's eye view of drone surveillance, the vehicle couldn't perform evasive serpentine maneuvers, instead moving slowly in straight lines like an elderly woman. Any slight incline or sharp turn could tip it over. A vehicle that can't maneuver, can't traverse bad roads, and could break apart at any moment is hardly different from a stationary target painted with a red heart. Don't rush to laugh at Kim Jong-un for picking up China's discarded Romanian-style junk. Upon closer inspection of the PLA's own vehicle garage, you will uncover an even more embarrassing truth. This issue extends beyond North Korea. It is a systematic problem across China's entire military vehicle system. The mixed breed on every street, Shaanxi's barrel effect. The trucks most commonly seen in PLA drills are 6-wheeled vehicles like the Shaanxi SX2150 and SX2190. These are the PLA's workhorses relied upon for logistics. Are these purely domestically produced? Not at all. The heart and skeleton of these trucks still come from the Steyr technology developed decades ago in Austria. Despite the exterior makeover, at their core, these are still civilian vehicles designed for European highways. This results in the fatal barrel effect. The speed of an army doesn't depend on its fastest vehicles, but on its slowest, most vulnerable ones. Once a conflict begins, these old trucks with poor mobility will drag down the entire convoy. Borrowed legs. One mountain's hidden danger. Look at China's true heavy hitters, the massive trucks hauling Dongfeng nuclear missiles. These are national treasures, right? Think again. The renowned One Mountain series chassis, which boasts a 16x16 drive, traces this technology back to the Belarus's MZKT factory. This means that even China's most advanced super heavy off-road chassis still rely heavily on foreign technology. In times of geopolitical shifts or supply chain disruptions, these borrowed legs could break down, leaving billions in nuclear missiles stranded, effectively becoming expensive firewood. The Chinese heart that can't be fixed. Engine reliability nightmare. Besides the chassis, the biggest bottleneck for the PLA's vehicle combat effectiveness remains the engine. While domestic diesel engine power has increased in recent years, reliability, mean time between failures, and overall lifespan still lag behind Western products. In peacetime drills, these engines can be repaired as needed, but in high-intensity combat, where running for hundreds of hours without stopping is normal, the precision and thermal decay issues of domestic engines become magnified. Imagine an armored division advancing under drone surveillance, and one ammunition truck's engine overheats and stalls. The entire supply line would be vulnerable, turning into sitting ducks. The M1991's destruction serves as a stark warning to Beijing. Don't assume modernization comes just by changing the shell. As long as logistics vehicles rely heavily on civilian standards, core chassis technology depends on one mountain foreign aid, and energy reliability lags, this seemingly massive steel flood could still collapse under the weight of modern warfare. Chapter 3. The modernization veil, a systematic collapse hidden behind the facade. Some may argue what you're saying is outdated. The PLA has already replaced its fleet with Dongfeng Mengshi and 4 MV3 vehicles, all equipped with independent suspension, automatic transmission, and central tire inflation systems. It's no longer the same old force. Indeed, on paper, the PLA's new generation of vehicles appears impressive, but if you think a few new vehicles can completely transform the military, you are mistaken. Beneath the shiny surface of this so-called modernization, 3 even more fatal flaws are being concealed. Show homes and half-finished buildings, the numbers game of vehicle replacement rates. If you visit the Zhurihe training base, you'll see the imposing and powerful Dongfeng Mengshi and 4 MV3 vehicles, but those are just show models for leaders and foreign media. The reality is far different. The PLA army is vast, and the production of new vehicles simply cannot fill this bottomless need. In the large second-line units, reserves and crucial logistics support brigades, outdated Steyr trucks still dominate. This creates a dangerously wide speed gap, while frontline combined arms brigades race ahead in their Dongfeng Mengshi vehicles. Their outdated ammunition and fuel trucks are stuck in mud pits miles behind. Without ammunition, even the most advanced tanks are just scrap metal. Without fuel, the combined arms brigades are nothing more than lambs to the slaughter. The more advanced, the more fragile, the maintenance nightmare of high-tech systems. The new generation vehicles are indeed advanced. Automatic transmissions, hybrid systems, air suspensions. But don't forget, the battlefield is not a 4S store. The more complex the system, the higher the failure rate and the harder it is to repair. Old Steyr trucks, despite their bumps, are simple and can be repaired with a hammer and wrench. But these new, sensor-laden vehicles, once stranded in the wild or locked by electronic interference, can't easily be fixed by soldiers in combat. The civil-military integration lie, a suicide tactic. Beijing is proud of its civil-military integration strategy. The idea is simple. In wartime, if military trucks are insufficient, just requisition tens of thousands of civilian trucks. It sounds like a people's war, but in reality, it's a collective death sentence. Remember, China's civilian trucks are designed for highways, with no protection and no off-road capability. Pushing them to the front line against Ukraine's swarming suicide drones is not support, but a game of target practice for the enemy drone operators. Thousands of civilian trucks, blocking the roads, will be destroyed by fire and explosion, eventually stalling the offensive. Conclusion: the battlefield does not believe in parameter parties. The destruction of the North Korean M1991 rocket launcher in Ukraine illuminated the twilight of mechanized warfare and mercilessly exposed the weakness of China's heavy military platforms. Those steel giants marching through Tiananmen Square may win applause from spectators and praise from leaders, but on the real, brutal digitalized battlefield under the cold, precise gaze of FPV drones, their bulky frames, fragile armor, and outdated design ideas guarantee only one outcome. They will become bigger, more expensive, and more flammable live targets. As the battlefield's rhythm shifts from days to seconds, those generals still obsessed with the caliber equals justice and hauling heavy weapons on civilian trucks through the streets might want to take a long look at the wreckage of the M1991. The burning wreckage may very well be their own future fate.